Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. A very, very warm welcome to everyone here this morning for this very, very special and rare ceremony that we're conducting. And on behalf of all of us here at the Manor, a very warm welcome to all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, senior devotees, members of the Management Council. I want to first welcome our special guests that are with us. Generally, when we conduct such a ceremony, you see a platform, you generally think of initiations. And we have other ceremonies as well, often marriages here at the Manor. But today's specific ceremony, I can only recollect we've had twice here at the Manor, conducting a sannyaa ceremony. I recall Shri Swami giving sannyas to Mahavishnu Goswami, and Jayaveda Maharaj giving to Kadamba Kananda Swami. And this is the third time I can recollect that we're having sannyas ceremony here at Bhaktivinoda Manor, very rare occasion. Also, welcoming all those devotees that are joining us on the net, Mayapur TV. Welcome for this morning's ceremony. I know a lot of devotees couldn't come in because of work, but they're all watching on the net. We have three chief guests today, and of course our main guest as well, so I want to warmly welcome His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami, His Holiness Atmanev Maharaj, His Holiness Chandramoli Maharaj, and of course the person who's giving sannyas to Abhay Prabhu today, His Holiness Radhanath Swami. So let's have 3 Hari Bols for our special guest today. And of course we want to welcome Abhay Prabhu as well, who's seated here. And I thought I'd begin by just saying a few words about Abhay before we invite Maharaj to lead us in the chanting of Jai Radha Madhava. We hope to finish by 10:30 this morning. For those of you that do need to go, we'll be serving early breakfast at 8:30 as well. But otherwise, we're having an extra, a small feast at about 10:30 when we finish the ceremony today. Abhay today, obviously, he has been a devotee that's been here in the UK with all of us for many, many years. And there are many devotees that do know him, and I'm very happy that his old temple president, Krishna Dama Prabhu, is here as well. Manchester. Abhay this year in August will be, by looking at him you will never guess this, but this year he will be 60 years old. Imagine that. He looks like a young man of 25 when you often see, maybe 35 at the most, but he'll be 60. And a little history of Abhay. He has, how he came to Krishna consciousness and everything else. And that's something I definitely have in common with Abhay today. Not that I'm on the sannyas list or anything like that, but I have something in common with Abhay. Chandramoli Maharaj said there is a spare seat there next to me. My wife is sitting in the audience here. In 1970, Abhay came in contact with Krishna consciousness for the first time, and that's what I have in common with him, that he saw the devotees on top of the pops. 1970, like many of you may have seen, and many of you perhaps on top of the pops at that time. But he wasn't till 7 years later, in 1977, that he received one of Srila Prabhupada's books in Rotherham. So it was quite a while after that. But you know how it is, once you do get the book, it takes a while to open that book. So that was 77. And he first read that book in 1982. So the principle of time bombs is definitely true. It was festering and it exploded, and now we are having sannyasa ceremony. Prabhupada's books. And he started practicing in 1982. And in 1984 is when he joined, and he joined in Manchester. And after that, after a year of training and traveling, he stayed in Manchester Temple for 16 years. And he was the only man there, of course, Krishna Dhamma would tell me, lone man, single person, door-to-door preaching, general temple services, holding the whole temple together for 16 years. Quite amazing. It was in 2001 that I had some discussions with him, and he came down to the manor after many, many years. He became the leader in the ashram, he still is, and we brought it to the attention of the managing council, and Abhay was a serious candidate for sannyas. He took on studying and Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava. He studied all the way up to the 12th canto. I think the most learned person in the UK. He's passed all the exams, all the way to the 12th canto. It was in the year 2004 that he took initiation from Radhanath Swami, and it was in 2006 that he started travelling, because he was obviously going to take sannyas. So specifically he was travelling in Russia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and of course he also travelled in the UK. So I'm very happy that we also have with us this morning Bhaktivedanta Goswami, who's been looking after him in all of those countries. Well, he tells me not only is he regarded already in all those years as a sannyasi, but they also call him Gurudev as well. So, you know, he's beyond sannyas as well. So these are just some thoughts on Abhay, which obviously we'll be asking the three sannyasis just to speak a few words shortly. But Prabhupada, when he was once in a press conference and he was giving sannyas to two of his young Western disciples, at the press conference, one of the reporters complained. He said, "These young boys, sannyas is for old people. Why are you giving them sannyas?" So Prabhupada, he asked the reporter, "What does it mean to be old?" The reporter was speechless. Prabhupada said, looking at him, "Old means that one is close to death." And then Prabhupada asked him, looking at him, "Can you guarantee that you will not die before me?" And the reporter said, "No, I may well die before you." So Prabhupada said, "Yes, therefore everyone is old." And everyone can take sannyas. Vrindavan Das Thakur in the Chaitanya Bhagavat has a nice commentary as well when he speaks about sannyas, and he explains how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave up the small world of family life in order to make the entire world his family. And Prabhupada jokingly often would speak that he gave up a few sons and now he has thousands of sons. Hare Krishna. We'll request Maharaj to lead us in begin the function. We'll request Maharaj to lead us in Kirtan, and then he'll be giving the main address. And just after that, we'll be requesting our three special guests just to speak a few words, and then we'll continue with our ceremony today. Hope you can all stay with us, whether you're here physically or on the net. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Panachari Jamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Timidandasya Gyananjanachalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamanyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padmanabam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathan Bidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahakana Ladita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskate Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manusya Kalpatarubhyascha Kriva Sindhubhyevacha Patihanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Etam saasthaya paratmanishtam adyasitam purvatam mair mahadvi aham tarisyami duranta param tamo mutongam mukundam grinisevayaiva. As a Brahmin from Avanti Desh said, I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In connection with this verse, which is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, chapter 23, verse 57, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that of the 64 items required for rendering devotional servants, acceptance of the symbolic marks of sannyas is a regulative principle. If one accepts the sannyas order, his main business is to devote his life completely to the service of Mukunda, Krishna. If one does not completely devote his mind and body in the service of the Lord, he does not actually become a sannyasi. It is not simply a matter of changing dress. In Bhagavad Gita 6.1, it is also stated, Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karoti ja sasanyasi cha yogi cha. One who works devotedly for the satisfaction of Krishna is a sannyasi. The dress is not sannyas, but the attitude of service to Krishna is. The word Paratmanishta means being a devotee of Lord Krishna, Paratma. The Supreme Person is Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. Those who are completely dedicated to the lotus feet of Krishna in service are actually sannyasis. As a matter of formality, the devotee accepts the sannyas dress as previous acharyas did. He also accepts the 3 dandas. Later, Vishnu Swami considered that accepting the dress of a tridandi was paratma nishta. Therefore, sincere devotees add another danda, the jiva danda, to the 3 existing dandas. The Vaishnava sannyasi is known as a tridandi sannyasi. The Mayavad sannyasi accepts only 1 danda, not understanding the purpose of the tridanda. Later, many persons in the community of Shiva Swami gave up the Atmanishta, devotional service of the Lord, and followed the path of Shankaracharya. Instead of accepting the 108 names, those in the Shiva Swami Sampradaya follow the path of Shankaracharya and accept the 10 names of sannyas. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the then existing order of sannyas, namely Ekadanda, he still recited a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam about the Tridanda sannyas accepted by the Brahmin of Advantipur. Indirectly, he declared that within the Ekadanda, 1 danda, 4 dandas existed as one. Accepting Ekadanda sannyas without paratmanishtam, devotional service to Lord Krishna, is not acceptable to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In addition, according to the exact regulative principles, one should add the jiva danda to the tridanda. These 4 dandas bound together as one are symbolic of unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna. You're very grateful today. behalf of His Divine Grace, today on behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara, our very dear Abhay Prabhu is going to be taking the vows of the renounced order. And Srila Prabhupada, in this very historical verse, is explaining the spirit of sannyas. To completely take shelter of the loving service of the Lord. It is not simply a question of hairstyle or dress or what we carry in our hand. These are symbols which are meant to facilitate the true spirit, which is a focus on complete devotion to the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he recited the verse, Naham vipro na cha narapatir napi vaishya shudro naham varanina cha grihapatir novanashto patirra, that I am not a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, nor am I a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Gopi Partur, Padakamala Yoda Dasa Dasa Dasanadas. My only aspiration, my eternal possession, is to be the servant of the servant of the servant of Lord Krishna. And to the degree we dedicate our body, mind, words, and life in that spirit of being servant of the servant of the servant is true sannyas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, who came especially for the purpose to teach us by his own example how to follow the very essential teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva dharma parityasya mam ekam sharanam vraja. The Gita culminates with abandoning all varieties of religion and just surrendering to Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his example, taught us ideally how we could do so. When he was a young man, he was married, and he showed us the ideal life of total surrender as a grihastha, which is absolutely perfect and complete. In his example, he did not disclose his ecstatic love for Krishna openly until after he connected to his spiritual master in disciplic succession, Srila Ishvara Puri. At that time, he was married to Vishnupriya. He was taking care of his mother, and he was spreading the Sankirtan movement, first in the house of Srivas. And although he was a grihastha, when the devotees were persecuted while following his instructions to chant the holy names with all sincerity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu encouraged them in every way. He would go into the streets, and wherever he would hear the chanting of the holy names, he would embrace those people who were chanting. He would bow down to them. He would put garlands with his own hands and anoint their bodies with sandalwood. And with tears in his eyes, he said, he would say, "You are my life and soul." This is how he emerged. And when those same people were being harassed by the Chankazi, 100 soldiers were in the streets every day, beating, plundering, imprisoning anyone who was chanting Krishna's names. And he led the first historical civil disobedience movement. Srila Prabhupada explained what was the power of Nimai Pandit. He was Grihastha, living at home. But by his one order, everyone come and assemble with a torch. Millions and millions of people came. It was a kirtan like no other kirtan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing ecstatically along with Nityananda Prabhu. And even Chankazi surrendered his life. This was his fearless dedication to serve Mukunda as a Grihastha. And he taught the example that at any given time, he would just bring people to his home for prasad, sadhus, swamis, Vaishnavas, whoever. And Vishnupriya and Sachi Mata would just immediately cook. Sometimes with no notice. He would bring 20, 30 people. And they were honored to just cook for them. So he was showing the perfect example of Grihastha. To serve. To serve prasad. To spread the glories of the holy name fearlessly. But for the purpose of reaching those people he could not reach as a Grihastha, he accepted sannyas. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas for many reasons. But one was to reach the people that hated him, that were blaspheming him, that were threatening him. As their eternal loving father and mother, Radha and Krishna, he wanted to deliver even them. And in those days, because people would bow down to sannyasis, because he was God, if they bowed down to him and listened to the words he said, they would be liberated. So from that point, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set the perfect example of sannyasi. First, he set the perfect example of how to perfect one's life as a Grihastha, and then he did it as a sannyasi. And just after taking sannyas from Keshav Bharati Maharaj in Katwa, as he was traveling to Vrindavan, he chanted this particular sloka, which has been meditated upon and recited by sannyasis since that time as a regulative principle practically, which describes the very essence. And I'll read it again. I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of meshes by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The very essence of sannyasa is revealed. To dedicate one's life and soul to serve Krishna. And Mahaprabhu did it in such a way, the greatest service to Krishna is to give others Krishna. As Shruti Dharma Prabhu explained, the idea of sannyas is one is not encumbered by domestic responsibilities. And for this reason, one can make the whole world one's family, and to feel responsible to serve every living being by giving Krishna consciousness. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Jagannath Puri, according to Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya warned him that the tendency is when one takes sannyas, one starts to consider himself God. Because people bow down to you. People give you special gifts. People offer you honor and respect. And in this way, one's spiritual life potentially could be ruined. And Lord Chaitanya took him very seriously. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, the spirit of sannyas is to be the servant of the servant of the servant, wholeheartedly, with no diversion. It's not to be the master of the master of the master. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught through his devotees the perfect example too. Among grihastas, who are on the highest platform of surrender, there was Advaitacharya, Nityananda Prabhu, Srivas Thakur, Shivananda Singh, Maharaj Prataparudra, so many others. And then we have his examples of those in the renounced order. Swami Damodar Goswami was one of his two most intimate disciples, or associates. He was a sannyasi. And Ramananda Rai, who was equal to him in his service, was a grihasta. And we have Gadadhar Pandit, Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. Can any of us say which was better? Can we even compare? They were all on the highest platform. Some were grihastas, some were sannyasis, because they were totally surrendered. Which means they dedicated their body, their mind, their words, and their life to the loving service of the Lord. And to be instruments of compassion, to give Krishna's love, Lord Chaitanya's love, to the world. Srila Prabhupada also lived the ideal life of a grihasta for so many years. And when he took sannyas, it was specifically for the purpose of being an instrument to spread his Gurudev's mission all over the world without encumbrance. He didn't need to do that for his own purification. He took sannyas as an act of selfless service. And Srila Prabhupada explains very interestingly that in our line of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the tradition of renunciation was generally, over the years, since the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to accept the Babaji line of renunciation. That white dress of a Babaji indicates Paramhamsa, the highest platform of devotional service. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw that so many people who were accepting this Paramhamsa order of life were not really on that platform. But they thought that they were just because of their dress. Because that Paramhamsa order of Babaji is outside the Varnashram system. But Prabhupada says Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted sannyas, which is a lower position, within Varnashram. just to teach the principle of humbling oneself before one's acharyas. His Gurudev, Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, was Paramhamsa Babaji. His father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at the end became a Paramhamsa Babaji. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati could have, but he wanted to take a humbler position within the Varnashram system to show by his example what was necessary for the time. Because he saw that the concepts were being misused, misinterpreted. So actually, in our lives, sannyas is an act of total humility. And the crest jewel of all sannyasis within our life, or those in the renounced order, was Raghunath Das Goswami, who was our Prayojana Acharya, teaching us how to attain the highest ecstasies of the love of the gopis for Krishna. After he left his home, he left everything with great trouble. What renunciation! His parents were practically billionaires, and he was the only heir to the whole fortune. He was young, he was handsome. He had a wife like an angel. He had everything that a man could possibly want in this world, in quantity and quality beyond anyone's imagination. And yet, time and again, he was trying to escape from it. He considered it like a prison because he wanted to serve wholeheartedly Lord Chaitanya's mission. Now, Shivananda is saying, Srivas Thakur, they didn't do that. It's not that you have to do that. In fact, Nityananda Prabhu was kind of a renunciate, and Lord Chaitanya told him to get married. So we have to understand that different people, according to their nature, according to the time, the place, the circumstance, and everything else, we have different ways of serving the Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed, Grihe Thakur, Vande Thakur, Sada Hari Bole Thakur, Suke Duke Bulonako, Padane Harinam Korore, Kai Gaudamatu Sware. This is Lord Chaitanya's mission. Whether you're a grihasta with family at home, or whether you're a sannyasi traveling around or in the forest, just take the name of Krishna. Krishna is not different than his name. Surrender, take shelter. And you will be free from the dualities of this material world. So Raghunath Das Goswami left everything behind. Came to Puri. And he was so humble. Even though he was directly in contact with Lord Chaitanya physically. Because the day he arrived, Lord Chaitanya put him under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was Lord Chaitanya's personal secretary. So he was right at the side of his personal secretary. But Raghunath Das Goswami was so humble. He practically never said a word to Lord Chaitanya. He felt, I'm the servant of the servant. And whatever inquiries he had for Lord Chaitanya, he would present it to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And one day, according to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Swarup Damodar Goswami approached Lord Chaitanya with Raghunath Das Goswami at his side and said, Raghunath has a question for you. He's given up everything in this world and he's taken to the renounced order of life, but he doesn't know why. What is his duties? Here is Raghunath Das Goswami asking, what are the duties of one in a renounced order? He's our Prayojanacharya. And Lord Chaitanya gave a system of what renunciation is that could equally be followed by a grihasta to attain perfection. Or a brahmachari. Or a vanaprastha. he didn't just say, follow in the footsteps of gopis. Meditate on Krishna's Leela. That was the culmination of a whole system. First, he said, this is what you have to do. Gramya katana shunibe, gramya varatana kohibe. First thing, don't hear or speak gossip. No prajalpa. Don't criticize others. Don't talk about the faults and the fall downs and this and that of other people. It's gramya kata. Don't talk about all this mundane stuff. Srila Prabhupada said this prajalpa. It consists of speaking negatively about anybody unless it's for a very positive purpose to protect other people or to help those people. It shouldn't just be done. And to speak about all mundane affairs, unless our speaking of mundane affairs really has a very practical value for devotional service. Such prajalpa, Prabhupada says, when you speak it, your inclination for devotion leaves you through your mouth with your prajalpa. You lose your propensity for Krishna consciousness when we speak gossip. That's the first thing. And then he says that you should eat very simple, and you should dress very simple. Which really means what Srila Prabhupada said in regard to deity worship, that when you dress Krishna nicely, if you're doing it the right consciousness, the result is you'll have no sense of need to dress yourself nicely. You may dress yourself nicely for whatever social purposes, but it's not for yourself. The gopis dress nicely, but only for Krishna, not for themselves. Krishna liked them like that. But to the degree we give Krishna pleasure, to that degree we lose the desire for selfish pleasure ourselves. So the only way to be happy, not dressing nicely or eating nicely, is by experiencing the higher taste. Lord Chaitanya would see a beautiful offering to Lord Jagannath, and he would say, just give me some rice and steamed vegetables, boiled vegetables. I'm happy seeing what Jagannath is eating. That's all I require. So real renunciation is our focus, is what makes Krishna beautiful, what makes Krishna happy. And that is our happiness. Amani namana dehoy Krishna nam sadalabe. Braje Radha Krishna seva manase koriye. This is the next instruction Lord Chaitanya gave to Raghunath Das Goswami. Offer all respect to others and do not expect any respect for yourself. This is renunciation. And in this spirit, constantly chant the name of Krishna. And then he comes to the point, when you do all these things, then in your mind meditate on Radha Krishna and Vrindavan. And then he culminated his instructions about renunciation with a very, very crucial verse, which means this verse, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you are, however you are, this is real renunciation. Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath Das Goswami, Trinada Visuichena, Taror Ibasi Hishnana, Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. To be humble like a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, ready to offer all respect to others and expect none in return. In this spirit, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. This was Mahaprabhu's final teaching to Raghunath Das Goswami in regard to what a sannyasi is. And one who lives by this principle is actual sannyasi. And Raghunath Das Goswami lived by that principle. And Lord Chaitanya, he said to Raghunath Das Goswami, actually Swarup Damodar Goswami knows better than me all these things, but since you asked me, I answered your question. And what was Raghunath Das Goswami's standard of renunciation? We cannot imitate him. Prabhupada said, if you imitate, you die. You can't survive. But the principle, when he was living in Puri, even though his parents were sending him large amounts of money for food and for shelter and for anything he wanted, he would just give it all to the devotees. And he just wore a little kopan, and eventually he was just eating the decomposed rice that the cows would spit out because they couldn't tolerate the taste of it. And he would collect it late at night and take the inner hard portion of it and wash it. And that's what he ate. And when Lord Chaitanya heard about this, from Swarup Damodar Goswami, he came to Raghunath Das Goswami's kutir right at the time he was about to eat his prasad. The Lord Chaitanya said, I heard you are eating very nice prasad. Please share some with me. And Raghunath Das was no possibility of giving that to the Lord. But the Lord knew right where it was, and he grabbed it and ate a handful of it. And he was about to take another one, and Swarup Damodar Goswami said, no, that's enough. Please don't eat any more of it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that I have tasted so many cakes and so many items of Jagannath's prasad, but never have I tasted anything that is so satisfying as what Raghunath Das Goswami is eating every day. What was Lord Chaitanya tasting? He wasn't tasting the hard little kernels of inside decomposed rice. He was tasting the spirit of Raghunath Das Goswami's humility. Mahaprabhu Bhaktaganer Vairagya Pradhan. In this particular instance, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells that renunciation is the basic principle that sustains the lives of the followers of Lord Chaitanya. And when the Lord sees such renunciation in his devotees, he is very satisfied. And what is that spirit of renunciation? To make our happiness in making Krishna happy. To make our happiness in making the spiritual master, the Vaishnavas, happy. To make our happiness making the conditioned souls happy by giving them Krishna. Being the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So we are very happy because all of us who know Abhay Prabhu have been observing him and associating with him over the years, have seen that he's not ambitious for position. He's not ambitious for sense gratification. He just wants to serve. It's not that he volunteered to become a sannyasi. He was practically pushed into becoming a sannyasi. Because everybody saw, you're already a sannyasi, just be honest. Just do it. Whatever makes you happy, I'll do. That's why he's here, just to make us happy. It's actually very beautiful. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the three great dangers, Kamini, Kanaka, Pratishta. Sexual desire, the desire for wealth, and the desire for prestige. They are like plunderers that can steal away our devotion. And whoever we are, we have to be very, very careful to not be plundered by the sexual drive, by the desire for wealth, or the desire for prestige. And they're all very dangerous. But for sannyasi, if you get caught up with the prestige thing, usually the other two follow behind. Therefore, trinada visunicena, amani namanadena. We always consider ourselves the humble servant of the servant. Sannyasis traditionally would go to the house of grihastas to serve them. They would come as beggars. They wouldn't come as masters. They would come as beggars. And it's interesting, here in London, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he sent some of his topmost learned, renounced sannyasis to London to preach Lord Chaitanya's mission. And if you read the instructions he gave them, it's very interesting. He said, you are going to a country where there's a lot of education, where there's a lot of accomplishments, and who are you? You are just triple-staffed beggars. You're coming with a begging bowl, with straw between your teeth. You are very learned, you are very accomplished, and in this way, with folded hands, you offer honor and respect to all these people in London, and when they're very happy by your honor and respect, then you take out your begging bowl, and you say, now, please, I beg you, forget what you know and hear the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That was his mood. Sannyasis would go door to door as beggars, and then people would open their hearts and their homes, and he would enlighten them. And Srila Prabhupada, the crest jewel of all sannyasis, he signed his letter to Krishna, your insignificant beggar. Make me a puppet. Let me dance as you want me to dance. Srila Prabhupada, that Jaladuta prayer is the ultimate expression of what a sannyasi should aspire for. And we are in that line. So we must be very careful. We must be strict. We should not take Maya lightly. She's very powerful. And she'll try to come in like a needle and come out like a nuclear bomb. The plow thing was for, the old days. Now she comes in like a German, comes out like a nuclear bomb. So we have to be very careful to really appreciate and honor the association of devotees and not make up our own. And give our life, our soul, body, mind, words, and life to serve, and to serve. Srila Prabhupada, great sannyasi, was cooking for the devotees, serving the devotees, feeding the devotees. And in the same spirit, he would sit on his Vyasa-san and accept Guru Puja from devotees. Whatever was required to uplift our consciousness, he was ready to do. Some time ago I spoke to one person. He never became a devotee, he never became initiated, at least externally as we knew it. It's kind of a little crazy. But in 1965 and early 66, he met Prabhupada at a yoga studio, and Prabhupada would say, "Would you like me to cook lunch for you?" And they'd go shopping. Prabhupada never went to a grocery store before in the West. He was quite amazed. But more than him being amazed, the people in the grocery store was amazed. So I don't know how it is in England, because I never buy anything. But, everything has a price tag on it. And they go to, and they just, the cash register, this much. She said, "Sir, it's $8. You see, this is what the price tag says." He says, "It's not worth that much." And they would give her $3. She said, "Sir, we don't do things like that in America. I don't know how." He said, No, I know what this is worth. I buy these things all the time. I'm not going to. Because in India, that's the way you did it. You would negotiate the price. And this person told me that Prabhupada was so gentle and sweet, but so firm, that she took her purse and took like the extra $5 out of her purse and put it in the cash register. She said, "Sir, take it. This is power. And then this person told me Prabhupada would go to his apartment and he would cook like a 5-course lunch. And then Prabhupada would serve them, and they would sit and eat together, and then Prabhupada and him would wash the pots and wash the dishes together, and then they would both lay down on their left sides. Prabhupada taught them that process. And then he would tell them about Krishna. So Prabhupada is a sannyasi. He was just willing to serve in whatever way would help people to become Krishna conscious. And later on, when he was installing deities and having Vyas pujas, he was just doing the needful to make us Krishna conscious. He was dancing according to how Krishna wanted him to dance in every situation. It's that selfless surrender that is real renunciation. And one of the great reasons Lord Chaitanya taught that people take sannyas is to give a standard and an inspiration to the brahmacharis as well as the grihastas. In many ways, we take sannyas to serve the grihasta community. That was Lord Chaitanya's principle. So that we can preach to them, so we can serve them in these ways. And in turn, the grihastas want to serve the sannyasis because they appreciate the level of their sacrifice and renunciation. So in this way, this mutual spirit creates a Vaishnava community. Varnashram is about a social body. The head, the arms, the belly, the legs. We all play our role for the purpose of serving everyone else and bringing the whole body to a healthy Krishna conscious state. Abhay Prabhu has really been such a shining example. Last night I was speaking to one very, very senior devotee, and he said, for Abhay Prabhu, he's always been a sannyasi in heart. He's just never wanted anything for himself. So simple, so humble, so eager to serve, so sober. today's ceremony is really recognizing the wonderful qualities and encouraging this very, very special soul. And also for our own benefit and for the benefit of society, for people to more deeply appreciate and recognize these qualities of his humble service attitude, which will surely help unite us and help us to strive for that essence. Abhay took his birth here in Britain. He served under Krishna Dharma Prabhu 16 years, we heard, in Manchester. Didn't have all that much association with other brahmacharis. But he was always enthusiastic because he just loved to serve. And now, by the request of others, Bhaktivigyan Goswami Maharaj, he comes to Russia. And when I see him in Russia, he goes to the most difficult, faraway places. I met him last year in Moscow, and the next day he was going to Siberia. And he was going somewhere else. And for a 60-year-old man, that type of traveling isn't easy. And for those of you who've been to Russia, the transportation systems there are not very advanced. But he's willing. Whether there's 2 or 3 devotees in a cold place, way up at the top of the world, or whether there's hundreds of people, thousands of people at a festival, he's grateful to serve. And we are very grateful to you, Abhay Prabhu. And we've all come here together today to honor and respect your life of devotion and to offer our sincerest prayers and gratitude as you enter into this sannyas order. Thank you very much.
We'll continue today. Of course, I forgot to mention today is a very auspicious day as well. Today is the appearance day of Sripad Ramanujacharya. Very, very auspicious day to be taking sannyas. Dayananda Swami had written to me and said that within ISKCON, this initiation ceremony to sannyas, I would make it this would be the 100th sannyasi. So we've reached 100 here with Abhay Prabhu. As his name indicates, fearless. So I'm going to request Chandramauli Maharaj, if we can just raise his mic, to speak. And then followed by His Holiness Atmaniyat Maharaj, and then Bhaktivigyan Goswami. And maybe we can close those 2 doors, everyone can come in. Because the traffic will move quite a lot in the corridors here. Perhaps if everyone shifts a little further in, that will give them room to go. Chaitanya, if you can just keep those close things. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Bhagavani Acharya Yersesha Sunyavadi Vastu Satani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
I would like to begin by profusely from the bottom of my heart thanking His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj for such a powerful and inspiring talk on the principles of sannyas and the qualities and glories of Abhay Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj. I can say that I've been to many sannyas ceremonies where Maharaj has spoken. Last year I was at Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj's sannyas ceremony, and before that Bhakti Sundar Madhava within the last 2 years. And each time I hear about the principles of sannyas and the responsibilities of sannyas, consciousness that is necessary in order to practice sannyas in the most pleasing and proper way, I feel like, I'm the person who's taking sannyas. Because it's so purifying to hear these things over and over again, because we have a tendency to forget as we go on with our day-to-day service and devotional life. I don't know if I can really add much philosophical, principles to what Maharaj has said, because he covered everything that I could possibly conceive of. But I can say that in response, or when we say in relationship to Maharaj's statements about Raghunath Das Goswami, that what Prabhupada was teaching in terms of sannyas is that really means there's no question of looking back. One time he was speaking about these principles to, I think it was dayananda Maharaj, and other devotees were there also. And Prabhupada said that if you're out preaching, and you're out traveling, and you're going to different places, you will meet various types of people and various types of material arrangements. And some people will be very wealthy and very well-to-do and also have very nice material arrangements and also very nice relationships with their wife and family. He said, if you think that, I could have had this too if I didn't take this sannyas, if you just look towards that or even think like that, he says you've fallen. So it's really a fine line, because the opportunities that present itself in terms of our day-to-day life and preaching is so wide and so variegatedness and so full of, when we see what we see from the material point of view, very ideal. But in the same principle that we have to understand that everything in this material world belongs to Krishna, and everything is for Krishna's pleasure, including ourselves, as Maharaj so perfectly described, that we are, as devotees, but especially within the renounced order of life, meant to give ourselves completely to the service of the Lord, for the pleasure of the Lord and for the upliftment. Maharaj would say this, I would listen to this when he would speak this many times, about how that you have no private life anymore. You belong to others. And I was always meditating on that. How do I belong to others? I still have my own concerns, my own apparent needs. But when you think about it deeply, that when you give yourself to others in the spirit of devotion, as directed by the acharyas, for the pleasure of the Lord, you actually fulfill all your needs beyond what you can possibly conceive of that you need for yourself. In other words, as Maharaj says, the greatest satisfaction is to give happiness and pleasure to others by preaching the glories of others and seeing others take that. And when we see others take that, we are trying to give, that is happiness. That is the greatest happiness, because it's the perfection of what we're trying to do. So, the sannyasa order means, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says, you're socially dead. There's nothing left. Nothing coming in, nothing going out, materially. And I can see from my experiences over the years of coming here and associating with Abhay, he has all these qualities. Of course, I don't know him as well as many do, but from my limited experiences in our interaction, he's genuinely humble and very, very kind and generous. And I can speak of him in relationship to my own experience, how sometimes I would come here and would be no place to stay. And they would say, you can stay in Abhay's room. He'll go somewhere else. And I would think, well, I'm pushing him out, but they say, no, this is what he wants. He wants you to have his place. Because there was no other place to stay. And he would go to the ashram and stay. I mean, you might think, well, it's a little thing, but it shows his kindness and his concern for others. And as a preacher, that's the quality that makes our preaching effective. Our philosophical understanding of the scriptures is important, but unless it's backed with compassion, as Maharaj said, and kindness and concern with others, it's just pretense, or it's just some good learning without the essence of that knowledge being lived. And I saw that with Abhay. Yesterday he came to my room and we sat down and we talked. And we were just talking a little bit about his moving forward in this ashram. And I was observing him very closely just to see what was his mood. And he was accepting it as a responsibility. And I could see he was a little bit concerned that it is something that is a great responsibility. So he was looking for some encouragement. He was looking for someone to explain more to him about that. So we talked nicely. But when he left, I realized this man is really humble. And that was my opinion of our meeting. And it's always been like that. He's very humble, but at the same time very dedicated to giving Krishna consciousness to others. He likes to preach. And that's one of the qualities that it takes to become a preacher. You have to like what you're doing. It's not like, it's an austerity, yes, but the austerity is not so much the preaching. It's what it takes to preach. That's the austerity. But the preaching is nectar. And he loves to preach. So on this day, it is a very, very auspicious day. We were speaking, the sannyasis, just before we came. And we were saying that out of all the yatras within the world, the UK yatra has produced 7 sannyasis. I think we listed 7 different persons. And Abhay, I think, is the 7th. So it's a real credit for the yatra and for the devotees here and for the history to show that this place has actually, although we're in the middle of one of the most materialistic, metropolitan, sense gratification areas in the world, still so many people have moved in that direction of renunciation in a very, what we say, serious way. So that's a real credit to the whole UK yatra. And, of course, Abhay is continuing that tradition nicely. So we thank you very much. But one thing I would like to say, which is again a little philosophical, and which really, when Maharaj hit on the very beginning of his lecture, And by quoting that verse from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gopi Bhatter Pada Kamayo Dasa Dasa Anudas, it's very easy to place the external identities upon ourselves and start to think of us in that way. Whether we're guru or sannyasi, temple president, whatever role we're playing in relationship to devotional service, it's simply that what it is. It's a role. If we get caught up in the role and we start expecting people to help us to facilitate that role we're playing, such as looking for honor, prestige, recognition, or whatever comes by that role, then we are actually an illusion, really. So the real identity, the real principle of our existence is that we are a servant. And Srila Prabhupada explains the glory of a servant is to become the servant of the servant of the servant. I'm speaking theoretically, not from realization, and I'm honestly saying that because we are meant to come to that standard. It is very difficult to always understand your principle, your identity as a servant, because so many other people will make you forget that by what they do and how they treat you. But if we forget it and we believe, then we become what we say. We are accompanied to that same illusion. So I just want to end by thanking all the devotees for coming to this ceremony, because you're giving your support to this, to Abai. And it's very important that you give your support, your best wishes, your prayers. Because if we look back in the history of our ISKCON movement, there has been many casualties in this ashram. In fact, the casualties are over 50%. So it is not easy to maintain these vows throughout life. So your prayers, your support, and your, what we say encouragement, in the sense that we don't think, well, it's not for me. Ultimately, it's for everyone, as Maharaj also mentioned. Maybe not in the formal sense, but in the sense of purifying our heart completely as the principle of what is required to go back home, back to Godhead. So we all have to come to that platform of complete renunciation of everything material. So thank you very much, Abai, and thank you all the devotees for being here in this wonderful ceremony. And especially thank you to Radhanath Maharaj for his presence and his deep understanding of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Om Jnana-Kriminandasya Jnana-Jana-Salakaya Chakshusmritam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa-sindhubhyascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, I am very, very fortunate today that I am here in the assembly of great Vaishnavas. Somehow, maybe the Lord is very kind upon me that He has allowed me to be in the association of great exalted Vaishnavas. This is actually a very, very rare gift of the Lord, to allow someone to come into the association of devotees. Especially today, on this day when Abai Prabhu is formally going to take sannyas. Now, although the ceremony is going to be conducted today, it doesn't mean that he will be a sannyas from today. But he was preparing for becoming sannyas. And this is just a formal officiating ceremony. But it does not mean that he wasn't sannyasi before today. So we have to understand that in all our lives, whether we are in brahmacharya ashram, grihastha ashram, vanaprastha or sannyasa ashram, when we come in contact with devotional service, that means the Lord has very specially shown favor upon us to allow us to come into this very, very sacred inner circle, to be freed from the cycle of birth and death. We all understand from scriptures, we have heard Bhagavad Gita many times, we have read Bhagavad Gita, we have understood from Bhagavatam, many speakers have spoken. And we heard this message from everyone, that this is what we are aspiring for. But to actually come within the inner circle of devotional life, it is indeed a rare gift. And this gift can only be given by a pure devotee of the Lord. And we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada, he brought this message to the world and allowed us to enter into the devotional atmosphere without even being qualified to enter devotional life. Because devotional life, as we read from the scriptures and descriptions, it is not very easy. And to be qualified to be a devotee of the Lord is also not very easy. But somehow by the blessings of a pure devotee, he makes us qualified to enter into that realm of devotional life and appreciate devotional life. So today actually we are talking on the subject matter of sannyas, renunciation. But actually renunciation is for all of us. It doesn't matter which ashram we belong to. Once we become a devotee of the Lord, that means that we are actually devoting ourselves to the Supreme Lord. And when we devote ourselves to the Supreme Lord, then what does that mean? We have actually come to an understanding and conclusion that the Supreme Lord is the Master and we are the servant. Many times we hear devotees quote, Jivere Surga Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. They eternally we are servants of Krishna. But do we actually understand that in practice, that I am a servant of Krishna? Being a devotee of Krishna means we are his servant. And what does this servant means? That we do everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So when we are serving the Supreme Lord, it doesn't mean just serving the Supreme Lord directly. Because that is practically impossible to serve the Supreme Lord. The only way we can serve the Supreme Lord is through serving his devotees who are dedicated to serving the Lord. And of course Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had famously quoted in his line, which of course Maharaj had quoted, Gopi Prata Kamalam, Daso Daso Das, that becoming servant of the servant, words are easy to speak. Saying that I am a servant of the servant is also very easy. It doesn't take great deal to say I am a servant of the servant. But actually to put it into practice, that is really important. So in our lives, when we come to Krishna consciousness, this opportunity is given to us to become really the servant through the practice of devotional life and serving the Vaishnavas. And whether we are in any of the 4 Varnashram institutes, we all have to begin practicing renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean only for the sannyasis. Of course, sannyasi, when he takes the vows, he is now dedicating that whatever Krishna gives me, I will use it only in the service of the Lord. But for the others, doesn't mean that there is license that whatever Krishna gives me, one for me and one for you. Sometimes we feel that some preachers say that in a household life we have certain license to enjoy, sense enjoyment. That is for Griyamadis, not for devotees. But devotees take devotional principle. Even within the household life, they must dedicate themselves to serving Krishna. That is renunciation. Because renunciation is not just for those who are taking the vows of renunciation. Because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Pariyata Mame Kamshka Varja Aham Tam Sarva Pavadya. When he's saying that, he's not saying that only for sannyasis, because he was speaking this to Arjuna. And he was actually telling Arjuna that now you take sannyas. He was speaking to him as a Kshatriya, as a householder. So it is for all of us to embrace this spirit of renunciation. And whatever Krishna has given us, we should try to think, how best I can use this in the service of the Lord. And when we do develop that consciousness, then we'll all become renunciates. But in our ISKCON society, when one actually comes forward to take up the responsibility of officially taking sannyas and the renounced order of life, he is now taking great responsibility on his shoulders that by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, I'm going to go out and preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with whatever time I have in this world. I have no other business. So that is a very serious commitment he's taking. And as a society, we should give great honor and respect to those who have taken this vow and support them in their journey to preach Krishna consciousness. And I think that today, on this day when Abhay Prabhu is taking the formal commitment, we should all bless him that he becomes a first-class preacher of Krishna consciousness till his last breath, and he fulfills the order of Guru and Gauranga. So, Abhay Prabhu, thank you very much for taking this serious commitment. I hope I can help you in any way. And I hope that you can also help me. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yanam jana shalakaya chakshurundalitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha panchakapatarabhyascha kripa sindhu devacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Also feel greatly honored and happy to be present in this historical moment. I will speak a few words about Prabhu. And I can only confirm everything what has already been said about him. He has greatly outstanding qualities, and Sri Vardhanath Maharaj made a very interesting point. He said that his acceptance of sannyas may help us to unify our society. What I can see in Abhay Prabhu, that he is already doing it in a very great way. One of his wonderful and amazing qualities is that he is completely, totally, absolutely non-controversial person. And wherever he comes, and that means that there is no conflict within himself. He doesn't create any conflict outside. Moreover, he pacifies all the conflicts. He brings together all the conflicting parties. Sometimes he goes to very difficult places where devotees are. The society of devotees is ridden by conflict. And he just comes there and stays there for a few days and speaks something very non-controversial. And all the controversies which were there somehow or other disappear. Just by his presence, just by his being there. And this is how this unification process works. If somebody has this outstanding quality of being just a dedicated servant, which means no controversies, nobody is really, if you're a servant, you're non-controversial.
to be master means to enter into some conflicts and controversies, but if you're a servant, nobody minds it, basically. And that's one of his wonderful qualities and one of his wonderful inputs. And Srila Radharani Maharaj mentioned that he goes to some amazing places. I'm Russian myself, I've never been to these places. I'll probably never go to these places. He goes far and wide. And he's preaching there. And his preaching has amazing impact in people's heart. Really amazing impact. Wherever I go, people tell me, "Oh, Abai was here," and it was so nice. And they thank me again and again and again that Abai was there, and without any exception, everyone just loves him. Absolutely, it's amazing how people are also united by his presence. In this feeling of respect and love which he commands. Never demands, but naturally people are coming forward to express their love and their respect and their gratitude to him. And I was thinking about this, and this is also a manifestation of his inner renunciation. He is renounced in a way that he doesn't create any conflicts, no doubt about it, because it's only somebody who doesn't have any ambition can be such a non-controversial person. But his renunciation also manifests in this particular quality of his, that he becomes very dear to the hearts of everyone. We know that Srinivasa Acharya, he glorifies these 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan by saying that they're very dear to everyone, to the rogues and to the ruffians and to normal people. Everyone is very, feels very deeply and with love about them. And while thinking about this, I remembered one verse from Yaksha Prashna from the Mahabharata, where Yaksha, Dharmaraj, Yamaraj, is asking Maharaj Yudhishthira what the person have to give up in order to become dear to everyone. It's a very interesting question in itself. In fact, he asked 4 questions of this kind. What you have to give up to become this and that, to become happy, to become wealthy, to become free from distress, and what you have to give up to become dear, priya to everyone. And Maharaj Yudhishthira gives a very profound answer to this question. He says, to become dear to everyone, you have to give up man or desire for respect. If you want to become dear, and every one of us has this craving in the heart, but the answer to this is simple. You have to give up your desire to be respected, and then immediately, automatically, you become very dear to everyone. And that's the philosophical or explanation of this phenomenon which we see, and which I personally see, about Abhai's impression upon people's heart. Everyone, without exception, loves him and he is dear to everyone. Everyone is waiting for him. People from many, many different small towns and cities, they're asking when Abhay is coming. As I said, I don't even know the names of these towns and cities. But this perception of his personality and of his qualities is absolutely, universal and across the board. He preaches in different countries, not only in Russia, in Georgia, in Armenia, I believe, and in Azerbaijan. Shuti Dharma Prabhu couldn't even pronounce the name Azerbaijan. Bhai Prabhu goes there. Preaches there. And on this glorious day, I want to thank him again and again for his service, for his amazing input to our society, and for his contribution. And I hope in many, many years, I wish him many, many years of preaching to glorify Srila Prabhupada and his mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next part of our ceremony will be conducted. We have the head pujari from ISKCON London, Murli Manohar, our own head pujari Gadada Prabhu, and overseeing the event Sri Radharaman, and they will take us through parts of the sannyasa ceremony. We don't see them so often, so we don't remember what actually happens. We see initiation and that. So I'm going to give him the mic and he'll take us through parts of the ceremony. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's a pleasure to be present here in Prabhu and to share whatever abilities Gurudev has granted his fallen soul and in his service. And maybe in the future, a few years' time, we can swap places. Gurudev was speaking about Sripad Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj institutionalizing the ceremony of sannyas. So in 1904, his beloved father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he travelled to Vrindavan, he managed to procure the original copy of the Samskara Dipika, which was inscribed personally by Sripad Gopal Bhatta Goswami, in order to share the process and procedures of taking sannyas. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur published this twice, and then his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, published this 4 times. And then most recently, Bhanu Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda Purnaswami have now made this available in ISKCON. So the rites are being followed according to the Samskara Dipika. At this point now, Abhay Prabhu will stand and be seated in front of our spiritual master, who will then recite 3 different prayers. The very first one is the prarthana, or begging for sannyas, kripaya sannyasam dehi. Having done so, then he will then sannyasa artham. He will then recite and meditate upon the meaning of the sannyasa ashram. And then interestingly, the final prayer, which Abhay Prabhu will be reciting, is the yoga patta. So you may have read in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata that when the kings were coronated to become representatives of Krishna, there was the Raja Patta Abhishek, the coronation of the king. Simultaneously, and very, very similar, there is the Yoga Patta Abhishek, or the coronation of the sannyasi. The difference lies in the instruments and the items, and obviously the purpose too. The Yoga Patta Adhikam will be then observed by Abhay Prabhu, requesting to receive the paraphernalia of sannyas. And then Sripad Gurudev will then request Abhay Prabhu for a final reconfirmation of continuing, and then Abhay Prabhu will then reconfirm with the triple recitation of the word Preshosmi, that I accept to proceed thrice. Having done so, then Gurudev will then offer the paraphernalia of sannyas to the deities and the assembled sannyasis. Abhay Prabhu will then return back in his sannyas robes. Gurudev will then recite the sannyas mantra and perform the namakarana and the offering of the tiranda. Hare Krishna.
Stand. Take a seat. Right. tried, it didn't work, it worked.
Guru Sampradaya Sadhya Sadhana Nushtana Pragya Asmin Bharate Samsaram Mam Trahi Sannyasam Dehi. O spiritual master, most knowledgeable in the process and goal of perfecting human life, according to the system of the bona fide Sampradaya, please deliver me from the material ocean of samsara. I beg you, please initiate me into the holy order of sannyas. Om Maya Tarange Samsare Patitam Mam Samudara Kopinam Dehi Sudartam Bhavatapa Nivaranam Kopina Grahanenaham Putosmi Smiti Achirad Ayha. Please deliver this fallen soul from the waves of the material world. Please bestow upon me the sacred Kopina to purify me and extinguish the suffering of material existence. Receiving this Kopina, I shall very quickly attain to purity. Om Vo Guru Bhikshupayogam Yoga Patadikam Mam Grahaya. O dear spiritual master, please grant me the sacred cloth and other items of the Yoga Patadikam, which are the characteristics of a sannyasi. Om Yad Yayavam.
Om Yad Yevam Tari Presa Iktaparatrayam Patasya Bhadra. O fortunate one, if you so desire this, repeat Presa 3 times.
Om Prayesosmi, Om Prayesosmi, Om Prayesosmi.
Prince Maharaj is going to go on the altar.
Krishna
If you whichever one.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschajatesha Dharane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patithanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. On behalf of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and our Sri Amamadva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and our previous acharyas, it is my great honor to offer you by the name Dayananda Swami Maharaj.
Swami Maharaj ki Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Buddhateva Shakune Samagayati Brahmaputra Samsashi Risheva Vaji Vishmati Rapitya Sarvatona Shakune Bhadramavada Vishvatona Shakune Punyamavada Om Asayama Hasti Bhansashute Sasti Om Sasti Om Sasti Om Sasti Om Sasti Naindro Vedashavaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Dharashwalishtanevi Swastina Brihaspati Dadatu Om Asyakamasti Bhavanto Bhavanto Om Ridhyatam Om Ridhyatam Om Ridhyatam Om Ridhyamastovam Samyamanmanamantram Tadehopayatam Yashvodapaksuposavantara Bhutam Cho Ashinokamam Saha Om Shanti 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 I would have performed a sankalpa in order to initiate the vow of the ceremony. So if Shanti Swami can kindly place some rice grains in the right hand of Maharaj. You can now cover your hand. Thank you very much. Please now repeat my words. Om Vishnu 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 Om Tatsat Adhya Brahmana Dvitiye Paradhe Shveta Varaha Kalpe Kalpe Daivaspatha Akhya Manvantare Ashta Vimshati Kali Yugasya Prathama Sandhyayam Brahma Vimshato Varta Manayam Pancha Shatatam Pancha Vimsha Gaurabda Samvatsare Uttara Ayane Vasanta Rito Chaitra Mase Shukla Pakshe Meena Rashi Te Bhaskare Panchamayam Shubha Titho Shukra Varam Vitayam Rohini Nakshatra Sanhyutayam Ayushman Yoge Jambudvipe Bharatakande Medhi Bhutasya Sumeroho Dakshine Lava Narnava Uttara Kone Gangayaha Uttara Bhage England Nama Maha Deshe Bhaktivedanta Manor Namadhame Shri Shri Vishnu Smarna Purvakam Shri Shri Radha Gokulandabhyam Prityartham Sridhandi Shrila Radhanatha Swami Shishya Shri Sannyasa Karma Ham Karishye Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Paragam Sada Pashyanti Suraya Devi Vachakshuratatam Tad Viprasari Panyavajagravagam Sastamindate Vishnu Yat Paramam Padam Om Shanti 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 Om Kavyadamakim Prahinamiduram Yamarajya Jattu Juripravaha अग्निमीर पुरोहितं यज्ञस्य देवं ऋग्विजम् होतारं रत्नधातमं हरिः ॐ ईश्वर्जेत्वा भाग्यवस्ता देवो वत्सविता प्रार्पायतु प्रशतमाय कर्मणे हरिः ॐ अग्नाय हि वीतये गृहानो हव्यदातये निहोता सत्सिभाहिषि हरिः ॐ ओघ्नायिः अहियाहि वहितोयाय तोयाय ग्रीनानोह व्यधातोयाय तोयाय नानि होता साय साय भा अभवा ईशी हरिः ॐ शन्नो धीरधिष्ठाय आपो भवन्तु पीतये शय्योरभिस्रवन्तु नः हरिः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तद्विष्णो परमं फलं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवीव चक्षुराततम् तत्प्रासादिपन्यवचग्रवागं तत्समिन्दते विष्णो यत्परमं पदम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ceremony of invocation, the entire Guru Mantra. Om Bhur Swaha Idamagmaya Idam Namama Om Bhur Swaha Idam Bhagyava Idam Namama Om Sat Swaha Idam Surya Idam Namama Om Bhur Bhur Swaha Idam Prajapataya Idam Namama Harihi Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya चक्षुमतम्य तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः स्वाहा इदं श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदाह्वैं ददाति स्वपदन्तिकं स्वाहा इदं श्रीरासाक्षायं नमः ॐ वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीपदकं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सह प्रजातिं सहागदातवितान्तजीवम् तद्वैतं सहवधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहागणाललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च स्वाहा इदं श्री गुरुवरराधा कृष्णपरशुतत्वयोऽयं नमः ॐ नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते श्रीभाध्यात्मसमिज्ञामिने स्वाहा इदं श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने स्वाहा इदं श्री हर्षाचार्याय नमः ॐ नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्वृते शून्यवादिपश्चात्यदेशतारिणे स्वाहा इदं श्री हर्षाचार्याय नमः ॐ नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धान्त सरस्वती नामिने स्वाहा इदं श्री भगवद्गीता नमः ॐ श्री हर्षवादी देवी भायताय कृपाभये कृष्ण संवत विज्ञान भाइने भवे नमः स्वाहा इदं श्री भगवद्गीता नमः ॐ माधुर्व प्रेमभ्या श्री रूपानुगभक्तिदा श्री घोरकवनाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमस्ते स्वाहा इदं श्री भगवद्गीता नमः ॐ नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्री मूर्तये दीनतारे स्वरूपनुरुद्धापाति हंसदन्तहारिणे श्रीराजमूर्तये विप्लवसम्भोदे भारं भूषयते नमः स्वाहा इदं श्रीपरपरगुरुवैदं नमः ॐ नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय भूपानुपरायते स्वाहा इदं श्रीमहागुरुवैदं नमः ॐ गौरवीरभावभूमिस्त्वं निर्देष्टः सजनप्रियः वैष्णवकरभौमे श्रीजगन्नाथायते नमः स्वाहा इदं श्रीपरमेश्वरगुरुवैदं नमः ॐ भञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च श्रीपादसिन्धुदेव च पतितानां भावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः स्वाहा इदं श्रीसरस्वतीभ्यो इदं नमः ॐ नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गोपिषे नमः स्वाहा इदं श्रीघोराय नमः ॐ पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपं स्वरूपकम् भक्तानां भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं स्वाहा इदं श्रीपञ्चत्वायं नमः ॐ हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धुनिरत्परे गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते स्वाहा इदं श्रीकृष्णाय नमः ॐ जयतन्त्रतो खण्डो मम मन्दमतिरपति मत्पशपताम्भोजो राधामन्दमोहना स्वाहा इदं श्री सम्बन्धाय देवमदमोहनाय नमः ॐ दिव्यवृन्दारण्य कल्पद्रुमाधा श्रीमद्रत्नरत्नासनस्थो श्रीमद्राधा शिवगोविन्ददेव प्रेष्ठादि सेव्यमानस्मरामि स्वाहा इदं श्री अभिदेयादिदेव गोविन्दाय नमः ॐ श्रीमन्द्रासरसारम्भी वंशी वटत्वस्थितः भाष्यवेन पणे गोपी गोपीनाथस्यस्तुनः स्वाहा इदं श्री प्रियोजनादिदेव गोपीनाथाय नमः ॐ थाप्तकाञ्चन घोरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभां देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय स्वाहा इदं श्री राधिकाय नमः ॐ जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौरभक्तवृन्द स्वाहा इदं श्री पञ्चतत्त्वाय नमः ॐ हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे स्वाहा इदं श्री राधा गोकुलनन्दाभ्यामिदं नमः ॐ हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे स्वाहा इदं श्री राधा गोकुलनन्दाभ्यामिदं नमः ॐ हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे स्वाहा इदं श्री राधा गोकुलनन्दाभ्यामिदं नमः ॐ भूर् स्वाहा इदमग्नयैदं नमः ॐ भूर् स्वाहा इदं बाह्यवैदं नमः ॐ स्वः स्वाहा इदं सूर्यैदं नमः ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः स्वाहा इदं प्रजापतयैदं नमः हरिः ॐ नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गोब्रह्मणहिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः स्वाहा इदं श्रीराधा गोकुलनन्दाभ्यामिदं नमः वामदेविगण हरिः ॐ भर्गवस्वकयान चित्र भोवदूति तदवृतस्तकाकयादिशया देवान् ॐ भर्गवस्वा तत्त्वा सत्यमदानं वगर्भतरङ्गतः वेधाजिदान देवतु ॐ भर्गवस्वा धीशुनसकीनाम् अविताजित्रीणाम् चितं तवासयूतये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ गौ शान्ति मनुष्य शान्ति पृथ्वी शान्ति अपा शान्ति वायु शान्ति तेज शान्ति वश्यादि जगत् शान्ति ब्रह्मण शान्ति वैश्व शान्ति शान्ति ॐ शान्ति 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 ॐ अङ्गहीनं क्रियाहीनं विधिहीनं च यद्भवेत् अस्तु समच्चितं कृष्णार्ष्णप्रसारतः यत्किञ्चित् जातं दृष्णाय श्रीकृष्ण स्मरणं करोमि ॐ हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
I couldn't get your book. What is it? Third contact. Because if you here,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.